Takanawa Gateway City sits on one of the most valuable former railway land in central Tokyo. It is close to Shinagawa, where a future maglev terminal is under construction. The commercial value of this area is enormous, but instead of filling every plot with something tall or massive, the plan leaves one important site free of another tower or large block. And on that site, it builds this distinctive low-rise museum. This is not a small regional museum that sits at the edge of the development. MoN Takanawa, the Museum of Narratives, is intended to be a cultural symbol for the new Takanawa Gateway City. So why build one more museum here, on former railway land at the center of this future city? And what makes this museum so different? Hello, welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to visit Takanawa Gateway City again, and you can see there are a lot of people right now in this area because the museum has been opened 2 months ago, so I'm going to visit the museum today and give you guys a kind of a virtual walk to the museum. So let's get started. Before going into the museum, just look around this area for a moment. The station, the towers, and this linear greenery deck. Everything here is trying to create a new city center from former railway land. I think this area has just been opened last 2 months. And you can see right here, there are still construction going on. So I can peek through the museum right here already, along this outdoor corridor. So I think this is the side of this museum. So this museum is designed by Kengo Kuma. So apparently he's using that signature wooden feature as the facade of the museum. Kengo Kuma is one of the most famous Japanese architects worldwide, with projects around the world. I previously covered his Anderson Museum project in Denmark, but for most people the important thing is not just his name, it is what this design does to the experience of the district. There was an exhibition explaining how the museum was designed. MoN was not conceived as a conventional box from the beginning. The design was split into different layers, which came together as a more fluid form with a spiral shape. It also shows how the planting surrounds the building behind the timber facade. The planting is seasonal, so I think that it would be interesting to come back and see how the building changes in different seasons. Before revisiting Takanawa Gateway, I also visited OIMACHI tracks. Although both projects were completed within the same year, the vibe was totally different. They had completely different ambitions. OIMACHI tracks feels more like a neighborhood development, while Takanawa Gateway is trying to become an international destination, with globally oriented offices, major retail brands, and a museum with international appeal. But with so many cultural anchors already in Tokyo, why add one more museum to this important new district? Tokyo does not lack museums. The National Arts Center is already one of Japan's largest exhibition spaces. Teamlab is already a powerful immersive destination inside Azabuda Hills. And the Edo Tokyo Museum has recently reopened after 4 years of major renovation. So the question becomes, why build one more museum here, on former railway land besides a new station? The answer is straightforward, but also quite visionary. As the museum's name suggests, it is a testing ground for carrying today's culture into the next 100 years. It also has a bigger vision, to carry local traditions and culture into the future. I think that's why it feels less like a traditional gallery space, more like a social gathering point for the district. I would describe it as a mix of community center and an art museum, but in a more curated way. The previous exhibition also followed this idea. It brought together Japanese tradition and technology, and showed how culture keeps changing. Right now there is an exhibition based on the Future of Life Pavilion from the 2025 Osaka Expo. It looks at how human life and identity may change in the future. So what makes MoN different is not only the building. The content inside also gives this new district a cultural identity. So let's get into the interior. When I walked inside, the first thing I noticed, it did not feel like a typical museum, where you enter one control route and move from one exhibition room to another. It felt more open and playful than that. The different levels and spaces encourage you to look freely around. Sometimes you are beside an exhibition space, sometimes you suddenly see another terrace, another void, or another stairs continuing above you. I think it makes the experience more enjoyable because it is not a typical straight route. The route itself feels like part of the exhibition. Actually, I tried to walk outside and see if I can follow the spiral route from top to bottom. But I discovered that it's not actually continuous. At certain points, the route stops and you have to return inside. I still wish the journey could continue all the way. It would be much more enjoyable to walk gradually from the ground to the roof, taking the views and planting along the way. The rooftop garden was great as well. There is also a footbath and a place to stay and watch the trains pass by. Of course, MoN Takanawa and Takanawa Gateway also received criticism. In my previous video, some people commented that the district felt a bit soulless, or that the design had lost some local identity. Understand that reaction. A new development can easily feel too controlled, too clean, and too well planned. And this is why I think MoN Takanawa has a role within Takanawa Gateway City. It acts as a cultural node, a destination that gives people a reason to come, not just pass through. It cannot create an identity for the whole district by itself, but it gives the development something beyond the typical glass office tower and the retail podium. Back to my hometown, developers are very good at mixed-use developments. We know how to make a building function efficiently, and how to fit as much area as possible into a compact site. But we are less focused on giving new districts a clear identity or cultural heart. In this era, I think we need to pay more attention to that. This is why State Theatre project, which I worked on before, and the future Central Yards project are asking the similar question. When land becomes extremely valuable, do we only build for return, or do we also build something that gives a city a longer story? Tokyo already has its own identity, from the historic Sensoji Temple to Tokyo Tower. But Tokyo is still evolving. New developments such as Asabuda Hills are adding new landmarks. And perhaps this museum will become part of Tokyo's future memory as well. At the same time, I still want to wait and see how the wider public spaces work, especially the embankment park. And I want to see how the whole complex connects with this quiet residential and former railway yard, and whether it can transform the area into a more internationally oriented community. If you have any thoughts of this museum, please comment down below. And don't forget to hype, subscribe, like, share my video as well. See you in the next one.